Shearwater dive computers are, in my opinion, the best dive computers out there. However, divers normally don't use it as its full potential. For a new diver, it's challenging to know what to use and when to use. For the majority of the divers that only dive air, they keep the basic settings as it comes from the factory. For Nitrox certified divers, they only learn to change from air to Nitrox and never go further. For a minority of divers like myself, they go further to OC Tech and other modes and configure the settings or per the dives they perform. Now let's go and see what you can perform on the Shearwater Perdix if you're a recreational diver or beginner or aspiring tech diver. If you only dive air, there is not a lot you can change. You can change the salinity of the water from fresh to EN 13319 and salt. The EN 13319 value is between fresh and salt. It is from the European Sea standard for dive computers and is the Perdix default value. The gas O2 percentage is a fixed value of 21%, and the MOD PPO2, that's the maximum partial pressure of oxygen in the gas at depth, this set can be configured from 1 to 1.69. However, if you don't know what this setting does or how it affects your dive, don't change to anything over 1.4. I would recommend you to book a Nitrox class where you're going to learn more about the MOD PPO2. If you dive Nitrox, you can change a little bit more than the air mode. Like air, you can change the salinity of the water and the MOD PPO2. But now you have the option to change the gas O2 percentage to anything between 21% to 40%. This is the mode I use. It gives me more flexibility in the advanced settings and allows me to dive with multiple gases. However, in the mode, you can only change the salinity of the water. Like I said, all other advantages of this mode, like configuring multiple gases, are configured in the other menus. For the recreational diver, the Deco Setup is normally ignored, but this is an important setup to be done. Here you can change the conservatism, and it's based on two variables called gradient factor low and gradient factor high. The gradient factor low determines the depth of the first Deco stop or your deeper stop. It is irrelevant in recreational dives or non-stop dives. It only becomes relevant if a recreational diver accidentally goes into the compression, what it should never happen. The gradient factor high determines the level of conservatism. When setting it to 70%, it means you are adding 30% conservatism, while setting it to 85% means you are only adding 15% conservatism. This means the higher the value, the shorter your dive and also lower the risk of DCS. If you use the predefined values, only available in air and Nitrox mode, you can use low, medium and high. This means that on low you are setting the gradient factor low to 45 and the gradient factor high 95. On medium would be 40 and 85, while high the values are 35 and 75. There is also an option called Custom that allows you to set your own gradient factors. When on OC Tec Mode, you must set up your own gradient factors, like the custom option in the air and in Nitrox modes. And if you want to know more about gradient factors, I'll leave a couple of links in the description below for the best videos I know of that talks about gradient factors. The last stop option is not configurable on the air or nitrox as it's set to 3 meters. However, on the OC Tec, you can configure your last stop to be at 6 or 3 meters. The NDL display option does not exist on air or nitrox. In these modes, you will see the NDL, not the compression limits, on the main screen together with safety stop and a nitrogen loading bar graph. On the OC Tec mode, you can select between NDL, SEAL, GF99, Surf GF, AT +5, Delta +5, or Mini. If you don't know what those options are, don't worry, I will explain in the next section. The Clear CNTR option only shows in the OC Tec mode, and it can have the values on or off. It basically means that it will begin counting up from 0 when the compression is cleared. The last option in this screen that's only available on air and nitrox mode is the safety stop. Here you can set it to adapt, CNT up or count up, off, 3 min, 4 min, or 5 min. This means that safety stop may be turned off, set to a fixed times of 3, 4, or 5 minutes, or set to adapt based on dive conditions. When you're using the adapt setting, a 3-minute safety stop will be used unless the dive exceeds 30 meters or the NDL falls below 5 minutes, in which case a 5-minute safety stop is used. For the air and nitrox mode, you can configure the bottom row, but only the center and the right column. On the OC Tec mode, you can configure the middle row and have the options to configure the left, center, and the right columns. The information shown in these rows and columns are up to you, and you can configure the Shearwater Perdix to show you the information you think it's relevant to you. The options are None, that is the default value. Max depth, that's the maximum depth of the current or previous dive. AVG depth, that's the average depth of the current or previous dive. PPO2, that's the partial pressure of oxygen in units of absolute atmospheres. MLD, that's the maximum operation depth of the current gas. CNS, that's the central nervous system oxygen toxicity clock as a percentage. SEAL, that's the current decompression ceiling not rounded to the next deeper stuff increment. Clock, that's the time of the day. DET, that's the dive end time, the time of the day when the dive will end. Temp, that is the temperature. Timer, that is a timer, a stopwatch with minutes and seconds. TTS, that's the time to the surface, the time in minutes to ascend to the surface, including ascend, dig stops, and safety stops. At +5, that's the TTS if you remain at the current depth for 5 more minutes. Delta +5, that's the difference between the current TTS and at +5. GF99, that's the raw percentage of the Bowman allowable supersaturation at the current depth. Surf GF, that's the surface gradient factor. Rate, that's the rate of ascending. Density, that's the density of the water in grams per liter. Compass, that's a miniature compass. AIT1 to AIT4, that's the pressure of the transmitted by transmitter. AIGTR, that's the gas time remaining for selected transmitter. AI-SAC, that's the surface air consumption for the selected transmitter. ARRTR, that's the redundant time remaining. It is the GTR calculated only on the tank with less pressure. Mini 1 and Mini 2, that's the mini combination of 3 other values. When in the OC Tec Mode, you can set up to 5 gases, and for each gas, you can select the percentage of oxygen and helium. The remaining part is assumed to be nitrogen. The on-off toggle means that you are, or not, carrying the gas in the dive. If you turn on a gas you are not carrying, it may result in an inaccurate decompression information being displayed. Like I said before, I use the OC Tec Mode with gradient factors set to 40 and 80. The NDL display, I use the mini configuration with TTS at the top, at +5 at the center, and temp at the bottom. My center row is configured to see all the information I think is important for me. On the left column, I set up with Mini 1, and it shows the AI information. AI T1 at the top, AI T2 in the middle, and AI GTR at the bottom. The center column shows the PPO-Q, while the right column shows the Mini Q, and it shows the GF99, Surf GF, and ascent rate. And finally, the gases I use depends on the dive, and they get changed as required. My default gas is air, so 21% O2, but I added and changed it as required. With multiple gases, it's quite easy to change the gas underwater or select the gas you are going to start diving with. If you're interested to see how easy to change a gas while diving, let me know in the comments below, and while you are there, don't forget to tell me what are your Shearwater Perdix settings and why did you choose them. And click on this video here if you want to know more about Nitrox, MLD, PPO2, the implications and benefits.